Learning to the Nishmas Ahuva Bas Yaakov Masechus Bechoros Perek Daled Mishna Daled. Misha Einoi Mumcha, someone who is not a mumcha, which the Rav explains based on the Gemara and Sanhedrin Daf Heyam and Aleph, is someone that took rishus from the Nasi, who is the head in Eretz Yisrael. V'ra es habachar v'nishchad al piv, and he is the one to paskin on a bachar that it has a balmum, and the shchita goes on because of what he said. Harei zeh yikaver, the animal has to be buried. Rashi speaks out, v'afagaf tahashta mischazi mum kavua. Even though now we see that it is a mum kavua and a bachar b'muma is nechal, but since the psak came about through an einay mumcha, still the halacha is yikaver. The Gemara says that this is either like Rameir in the last Mishnah that held hoyavhu nishkat shelo al pi mumcha aser, or we're talking about the case of Doikin Shabayim, where we said over there, even Rabbi Yehuda's maskim, since such a mum changes la'achar misa, and therefore it was actually not a mum kavua. Zok the Mishnah, vishale mebeisei, and this Rav that paskin that was not a mumcha, since he caused the animal to get buried, is vishale mebeisei, he has to pay. And in the Gemara there's a brayso that says, Tana kushu mishalim revia ledaka umechza legasa, which Rashi explains because it's maman hamutul besafik cholkin, which Tosfos clarifies doesn't mean sumchis as halacha, but rather it was a takonas chachamim over here. And the reason why it's a suffix is because maybe if he wasn't mater it, he would have shown it to a mumcha and would have paskin that it was taka bal mum, and then the kohen would have been allowed to eat it. And now it needs kfura, so he has to pay the kohen a quarter for a daka and mechza le behemagasa. Why do you only pay a quarter for a behemadaka? So the Gemara says, Mishum gzeras megadli behemadaka naguba. Since it takes a lot of care to take care of a behemadaka, so you save the kohen from such tircha. So since you save him from that people, so you only have to pay a quarter. Rashi brings a different lashon that because he was over al divrei chachamim by being megadol behemadaka, so therefore they knast him that he only gets a revia. The Mishnah continues, donas adin, if someone dans adin in the incorrect way, hainu, he was zikes achayev, or he was mechayev as a zakai, he was times atar, or he was times atame, masha asa, his psak stands, vishalim mebeisai, and the Rav has to pay for the loss. So now the Gemara asked that l'chayre it's only dina de garmi. It was not a direct hefsid caused by him. It was only dina de garmi. So in the Reisha, where it was talking about seeing a bachar, the Gemara doesn't ask this question. And Tosfos asks why. The Rishonim point out because over there by bachar we're extra machmer because we don't want a person to come to be mater b'chayris not through a mumcha, so therefore it was mishalim bebeisai. But over here the Gemara asks that l'chayr is tali in the shayla of dan din degarmi, which would be Rameir's shita. And the Gemara is madcha that in each one of these cases we're talking about that it was biadaya. So zikas achayev is saying that you don't have to pay. So the Gemara says in Ukimta that's talking about there was a mashkin given and he's taking back the mashkin. Timei asatar, the Gemara explains that not only did he say that it's tamei, he said, I'm going to show you that this thing is tamei, and he actually pulls out a sheretz and is a metameh. So he does a biyadayim. And tiras hatameh means he says, this is tar, let's mix it together with our own peris. And Tosfos Yontif brings down, we'll just say the question, because it's a little complicated, but brings down from Tosfos and Gittin, Daf Nun Gimel and Aleph, where over there, it's talking about hezek she'ina nicker, and it says dafka b'mezid yechayev b'shegig is potter. It's machlokes hamaram over there. Why? So l'chayra over here is a case of a shegig. It wasn't like the Rava was paskening on purpose. So it's a hezek she'ina nicker b'shegig. Why should you be chayev to pay? It's clear it's hezek she'ina nicker. So the Mishnah vayter mumcha lebezdin. If he was a mumcha lebezdin, meaning that he had specific rishus from bezdin to paskin, so then even though he was zikes achayev as a zakai, potter milashalim, he's potter from paying. Rashi says because then the person can't tell the Rav, why did you paskin since you weren't a baki bedinim? He paskin because he had rishus from bezdin. Maisa bepara shenitla ha'im shalo. There was a story with a cow that its rechem was removed. V'hachila Reb Tarfon leklavim. Reb Tarfon paskin that it's a treifa, and thereby the owners gave it away to their dogs. Uba ma'asav nechacham v'tiru. Omar, they tudas haroifi, ein para v'chazer yitzeh melechzandria ad sheim choytrin eseim shalom b'shvil shaloi telet. The Chachamim said that it was well known that tudas haroifi had removed all the rechems from animals that were leaving Alexandria, and yet, in order that they shouldn't give birth, and yet they lived. So you see that it's not a treifa. Amar Reb Tarfon, hocha chamarcha tarfon. Reb Tarfon said on himself, so now I just lost the chamar. I'm going to have to sell my own chamar in order to pay this back. In other words, he was pasking on himself the halacha of Yishalem me beisai. And on that, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Reb Tarfon pater ata, she'ata mumcha lebezin, like we just said, that if it's amhoya mumcha lebezin, is pater milashalim. Mumcha lebezin, pater milashalim. The Gemara over here asks that when we're saying that the Rav made a mistake that he has to pay, is Dafka talking about if he was ta b'shikal adas. But if you're ta b'davar ha-mishnah, something that's a mefurish ha-mishnah, then the halacha would be that the money has to be returned. So if you were zikas hachayiv, then that would get overturned because it's ta b'davar mishnah. So if it gets overturned, so then there's nothing, there was no hefsid caused about you. So the Gemara says, Anachanami, it's two reasons he'd be pater of tarfin. First of all, because chal mumcha lebezdin pater, and second of all, because this thing should have been overturned. And that which was, Rashi speaks out, that which it was hechilu leklavim, the owner shouldn't have been hechilu leklavim. Since I'm a first misha, iu the avtzed anafshe on the fact that they gave it to the klavim. Mishna hey hanoit el schara li is roya bechoros in sheichten al piv elam kein haya mumcha kayola biyavna shetir lechacham li is noit el arbi yisaris be'imadaka v'shisha begasa bein tam and bein balmum. Zok the Mishnah, you're not allowed to take money to paskin bechoros. Rashi learns dilma mishum agra kasharile, because maybe he was only mater because of the schar that he got. The one exception was this big chacham ayola biyavna, that there was no chash that he would change his psak, so they allowed him to take 4 Isser by Behema Daka and even more by Behema Gasa. The Gemara says, my timer, because it's Nafish Tirche, because you have to knock the animal down to the ground in order to see the mum. So therefore, they allowed him to take more money. So the Gemara asks, Mishnah ends off that even if it's a tam, he's not allowed to take money. But over there, he's not being mater. So the Gemara answers that if he only got money when he paskin the Balmum, so every time he paskin the Balmum, people are going to say that he was paskin that because of the money.